Underestimating one human backfired. His true power shocked everyone HFY. Soft lights pulsed along the floor, changing colors without reason. He had never seen anything like it. He tried to keep his face calm, but inside his stomach twisted. This was the first time a human had been sent to speak for Earth in front of the entire Galactic Council. He was an engineer, not a diplomat or soldier, and that made him different from the others here. Around him, aliens of all shapes moved through the hall. Some had long arms with thin fingers that shimmered in the light. Others were round and short, with faces that had no eyes but seemed to see everything. The sounds they made were strange clicks and hums, and their steps made soft vibrations in the floor. Ethan tried not to look nervous. He focused on the smooth rhythm of his breathing. Laura King, Earth's official diplomat, walked beside him, whispering encouragement. "Remember," she said, "they are judging us now. Stay calm and listen." Ethan nodded. He knew that, but it was harder than it sounded. The aliens had already made their opinions about humans clear. Reports from earlier meetings said they thought humans were weak, emotional, and unfit to join galactic decisions. Ethan had read some of the reports. They had called humans unpredictable and dangerous in their own way, but also foolish. He felt a chill at the words, but he reminded himself, humans had survived worse than this. Humans had survived every disaster on their planet. They had survived starvation, sickness, storms, and wars. This was only a room of strangers. As they entered the main chamber, Ethan's eyes widened. The room was enormous. It stretched high into the sky with no ceiling in sight. Platforms hovered above the floor where alien delegates waited. The platforms glowed softly, moving up and down like they were breathing. In the center of the room, a large holographic map floated. It showed the stars, planets, and routes between them. Ethan could see tiny points of light moving along the lines, like ships traveling through space. At the far end of the chamber, a group of alien leaders sat in a semicircle. They were larger than the others, and their voices carried across the room even without sound. Ethan could feel their attention like a weight pressing on him. He swallowed hard but kept walking forward. Laura stayed close, giving him small nods of support. "Your human representative is here," one of the aliens said in a low, vibrating tone. The words were translated into English in Ethan's mind instantly, but the voice still felt strange, like it was inside his head. "We are curious to see if your species is ready to join the council." Other aliens made soft noises, some laughing quietly. Ethan noticed that most of them looked at him as if he were a child or a small animal. He could feel their judgment. It made him angry for a moment, but he pushed the feeling down. Anger would not help here. Calm thinking would. He stood in front of the semicircle and bowed slightly. It was not necessary, but he felt it would show respect. He opened his mouth to speak, but no words came at first. The room was too quiet, the pressure too heavy. He looked at Laura. She gave him a small smile and mouthed, "You can do this." Ethan took a deep breath and finally spoke. His voice was steady, softer than he wanted, but clear. "I am Ethan Cole," he said. "I speak for Earth. I do not have weapons. I do not have armies. I only have what humans have always had, the ability to think, to solve problems, and to survive." A few aliens made soft noises that sounded like scoffs. One of the leaders leaned forward. Its large eyes blinked slowly and it spoke. "Words mean nothing. Humans are untested in the wider galaxy. They are weak. They will fail." Ethan nodded as if agreeing. Inside, he felt a spark of determination. He knew what humans could do when underestimated. He had seen it on Earth many times. Humans were not the strongest physically, but they adapted faster than anyone else. They learned from every mistake. They found ways to survive that no one expected. "Perhaps," Ethan said calmly, "you have judged us too quickly. Perhaps you will see more if you give us a chance. We do not demand trust. We offer it, and we ask only for observation." Some of the aliens whispered to each other. Ethan could feel their surprise. They had expected him to beg or show fear. Instead, he stood quietly and spoke with reason. Laura leaned slightly closer to him, whispering, "Good, Ethan, just keep going." The council then began their test. It was not a simple question. They used a device that scanned minds and thoughts, designed to detect lies, fear, and weakness. Ethan felt a strange pull in his head, as if something invisible was pressing on his brain. Other humans had reported panic and confusion during the scan, but Ethan focused on his breathing. He imagined a calm river, flowing slowly. He let the pressure touch him but did not resist with fear. Instead, he let it pass through him like water. The aliens made more noises, curious now. They had expected a human to break, to shout or collapse, but Ethan remained calm. He answered questions about Earth, its cultures, and technology. He described humans honestly, admitting faults but showing strengths. Slowly the room changed. The initial laughter faded. The aliens leaned in, listening. Some seemed confused that a human could remain so steady under pressure. Outside the chamber, Lucas Grant, a science officer monitoring the feed from Earth, sat at his station. He had been worried, thinking Ethan might fail, but as he watched, he noticed something unusual. Ethan's mind patterns were not normal for humans in high stress. They were faster, more connected. Lucas frowned. "How is he doing that?" he whispered. "He shouldn't be able to think like that." Back in the chamber, one alien leader stood, its tall body casting a shadow across the room. It spoke again, this time with sharp words. "If humans are as strong as you claim, show us proof. Words are meaningless." "Action is what matters," Ethan nodded. He had expected this. Humans rarely had power that others could see immediately. Most of the time, they proved themselves slowly, quietly, through thought and endurance. He took a step forward and said, "If action is required, I am ready." The aliens looked at each other, unsure. They had expected fear, hesitation, weakness. Instead, they found a human standing calmly, willing to face their test without anger or panic. Laura exhaled quietly, her heart beating fast. She had no doubt now that Ethan was different from what the council expected. He had something they did not understand yet. For the first time, Ethan felt a spark of confidence. He did not know what the rest of the test would be, but he knew humans could handle it. They had survived disasters on Earth, from earthquakes to floods to wars. They had always adapted, always found a way. He would show the council that humans were not weak. They were unpredictable, adaptable, and strong in ways no one had seen yet. As he looked around the chamber, he saw the doubt in the eyes of the alien leaders. Some were curious, some cautious, and some clearly annoyed. Ethan held his ground. He did not need to fight them physically. Humans had a different kind of power. He would prove it in time, and when he did, the council would remember that underestimating a human could be a mistake they would never forget. The chamber grew quiet again. Ethan remained still, letting the tension settle. He could feel the weight of every gaze upon him, but he no longer felt fear. He only felt focus. He would listen, he would observe, and when the time came, he would act. For the first time, Ethan realized that being underestimated could be an advantage. The council thought he was weak, and that would give him room to show them something they could not predict. Humans had a power no one else had yet understood, and he was about to show it to the galaxy after the first test. Ethan felt a small relief, but he knew the challenge was only beginning. The council had watched him carefully, and now they wanted to see more. The room's atmosphere had changed. Some aliens seemed cautious, others confused, and a few whispered to each other. Ethan could not understand their words, but he could feel their tension. He stayed calm, letting his eyes move slowly over the strange chamber. An alien with long, thin limbs and eyes like glowing stones stepped forward. Its voice filled the room, low and sharp. "You speak well, human. Your words are clever, but words do not save lives. Let us see how you handle real danger." Suddenly, the floor shook slightly, and the walls around Ethan began to shift. The glowing panels moved, forming strange shapes, closing in and opening again. Ethan kept his feet steady. He could feel the air pressure changing, and a faint vibration ran through the floor. The council had created a test, one designed to confuse and scare. It was meant to make weaker species panic. Ethan breathed slowly. He remembered the drills on Earth. Humans had long trained to stay calm in emergencies, whether in floods, storms, or fires. Panic did not help. Clarity helped. He focused on the center of the room and studied the patterns of the moving walls. They seemed random, but he suspected there was logic hidden in them. He had learned to find patterns in chaos before. "Step forward," the alien said. "Navigate the field without hesitation. Hesitation is weakness." Ethan stepped carefully. His movements were slow and deliberate. He kept his mind clear. He noticed how some panels moved slightly faster when he approached and others stayed steady. His instincts told him to move in a way that kept him balanced and safe. Aliens watching gasped quietly. They expected him to stumble, but he did not. He moved through the shifting maze with calm precision. At one point, a section of the floor sank slightly under his weight, causing a small tremor. Ethan did not falter. He adjusted, keeping his balance, and continued forward. Behind him, some aliens whispered among themselves. A few made sounds that suggested confusion. One of the leaders, tall and round, leaned forward, its glowing eyes narrowing. Ethan could sense its surprise. Humans rarely maintained composure in sudden danger, yet here he was, unharmed. As he reached the center of the chamber, the walls suddenly formed a tight enclosure. Lights flashed, simulating alarms. Loud vibrations filled the air. Ethan's heart raced slightly, but his mind stayed steady. He examined the devices around him. They were advanced but simple in principle: pressure sensors, motion triggers, and lights. He could manipulate them if needed. He knelt to the floor, examining a small console that had appeared. Buttons and symbols glowed faintly. He did not know their exact function, but he tried pressing one lightly. A beam of light moved across the room. It connected the moving panels, stopping some of them in place. Ethan realized he could control the sequence of walls. By observing the reactions, he could create safe passages. He smiled faintly. Humans had a gift: curiosity combined with quick problem-solving. Aliens often relied on raw power or advanced technology, but humans adapted. They learned by trial, error, and observation. Slowly, carefully, Ethan manipulated the panels until the path cleared. The alien observers leaned forward, some clicking their fingers in sharp sounds. They were clearly impressed, though they tried to hide it. Ethan rose and walked calmly through the cleared path. Every step he took was confident but not boastful. He felt the eyes of the council on him, weighing his every move. He ignored them. He focused on the challenge, as humans always did. At the end of the path, a large sphere hovered in the air. Inside, a faint glow suggested energy or some unknown force. Ethan stepped closer. The sphere seemed to pulse, reacting to his presence. A sudden shock of energy hit the floor, causing sparks to fly. Most species would have jumped back or panicked, but Ethan stood still. He studied the pulses, noticing the pattern: short, long, short, short, long. It repeated. He realized it was not random, it had rhythm. He extended his hand, touching the sphere lightly. The energy flowed around him, but he did not retreat. He had learned on Earth to remain steady when electricity or heat threatened. By matching his movements to the pulses, he calmed the sphere, stopping its dangerous bursts. The aliens watching whispered in astonishment. Humans had done the impossible. They had mastered a device they had never seen before, and without tools or instructions. Laura, watching from the gallery, could not hide her amazement. Ethan had faced tests designed to break minds and bodies alike, yet he had adapted. She thought of all the reports that had warned them about humans' supposed weakness. Those warnings had been wrong. Humans were unpredictable, but in a way that gave them power no one else had. After the chamber settled, another alien stepped forward. It was taller than the others, with thin, shimmering skin that reflected the room's lights. It spoke, its voice echoing in Ethan's mind. "Humans, unusual. You survive where others fail. Your mind fast, clever, but unpredictable. Why do you not fear?" Ethan paused, choosing his words. He could have been defensive, but he remained calm. "Fear is natural," he said, "but fear alone is useless. Humans survive by thinking, by learning, by helping each other. Fear does not help us, understanding does." The alien considered this, tilting its head. Another voice joined in, softer, almost a whisper. "Perhaps they are not as simple as we believed. Perhaps their weakness is a trick." Ethan smiled faintly. Humans often surprised those who underestimated them. He had grown up learning to turn disadvantage into strength. Humans had survived countless challenges on Earth: storms, floods, earthquakes, wars. They had been pushed to the edge of extinction and had always found a way. The Council had yet to see the full measure of that strength. As the tests continued, Ethan faced simulations designed to confuse and exhaust him. Holographic images of alien landscapes, sudden changes in gravity, mental puzzles that could break weaker minds. He faced them all. Each time he remained calm, thinking step by step, analyzing patterns and choosing the right solution. Other humans watching through distant feeds gasped in amazement. They had never seen anyone handle such challenges with such ease. Lucas Grant leaned closer to his monitor, muttering, "He's different, faster, better. How is he doing this?" Hours passed, but Ethan did not waver. Hunger and fatigue crept into his body, but he ignored them. He focused on the task, as humans always did when survival demanded it. Aliens began to whisper more loudly among themselves. Some looked worried. A few admitted quietly that humans might be more dangerous than they had thought. Finally, the Council called a halt. The room quieted. Ethan stood in the center, breathing evenly with no sign of exhaustion. The aliens looked at each other in disbelief. One of the older leaders, with skin like bronze and eyes like molten gold, spoke slowly. "Humans, you have survived our tests without panic. Your mind adapts, your body endures. This is unusual." Ethan nodded, keeping his expression calm. He did not need to gloat. His actions had spoken for him. Laura stepped forward, placing a hand lightly on his shoulder, a silent gesture of pride. She whispered, "You've done more than any human before. They see it now." Ethan felt a small smile tug at his lips. Humans were not the strongest in weapons or speed, but they had something else: adaptability, endurance, and creativity. The Council had seen the first part of that power today. The next step would be even harder, but Ethan knew humans could face it. They always had. As he left the chamber for a short rest, the aliens continued to discuss in low tones. Some expressed doubt that humans were ready for the Council. Others quietly admitted humans might be the species that could survive anything. Ethan did not overhear their words, but he felt their change in attitude. Underestimation had given him an advantage. It had allowed him to show strength they did not expect. Outside the chamber, Lucas Grant made notes quickly. He knew the Council had underestimated humanity, and now the human mind had proven its worth. He typed a message to Earth Command. "Human envoy showing exceptional problem-solving under extreme stress. Council surprised. Recommend further observation." Ethan sat down on a bench in the rest area. He closed his eyes for a moment, letting his mind relax. He knew more challenges awaited. The Council would push further, testing endurance, intelligence, and patience. But he also knew humans could rise to the occasion. He had seen it all his life: survival against impossible odds. He thought of Earth, of the humans waiting for news, of Laura and the others who believed in him. He felt a quiet determination. They would see soon enough that humans were more than they appeared. And when the Council finally understood the true nature of human strength, They would realize that underestimating one human could be a mistake they would never forget after the tests in the chamber. Ethan felt a small surge of confidence, but he knew the council was not done. With him, the aliens had grown curious, but curiosity could quickly turn to challenge. They wanted proof of human skill, endurance, and intelligence. Ethan walked alongside Laura to a new room, one that hummed with energy and smelled faintly of ozone. The walls glowed faintly and strange machines moved slowly in the corners. "This test," Laura whispered, "is different. It is not about puzzles or movement. It is about survival under pressure." Ethan nodded. He had faced danger before, but he sensed this would be the most intense trial yet. The room ahead opened automatically, revealing a large platform suspended above a glowing pit. The pit radiated heat and energy. Machines floated in the air, projecting holographic obstacles and barriers. Ethan could see alien experts monitoring from raised platforms. They spoke in low tones, translating occasionally into words he could understand. "Human," one of the alien leaders said, "you will stabilize the core or fail. Failure is unacceptable. Prove your species worthy." Ethan looked at the glowing core. It pulsed erratically, sending small shockwaves into the room. The system was advanced, more than anything he had ever seen. He could feel the energy in the air, buzzing lightly against his skin. Many species would have frozen or retreated. Ethan felt his heart beat faster, but he stayed calm. He studied the problem carefully. He knelt beside a console, noting the holographic controls floating above it. Buttons, sliders, and shapes appeared. He did not understand all of them at first glance, but he could see patterns. The core pulsed in rhythm, and the console reacted to each pulse. He realized that if he timed his adjustments carefully, he could stabilize the flow. A sudden spike of energy shot across the floor. Ethan jumped back slightly but stayed on the platform. The aliens watching made sharp clicking noises, surprised by his balance. He noticed how the energy reacted to movement and calculated a safe approach. He stepped forward, keeping his movements precise. One wrong touch could overload the core and destroy the platform. Laura and the human observers held their breath. This was unlike anything they had trained for. Ethan worked quickly but methodically, pressing buttons, adjusting sliders, and moving parts of the console in a precise rhythm. He studied the fluctuations of the core, predicting the next spike before it happened. Every adjustment he made reduced the instability. The aliens murmured among themselves. Some had expected failure. Others whispered questions to each other, confused. A few looked concerned. One tall alien with silver scales and long claws leaned over the railing. "He anticipates the energy. This is unusual. Humans are fast learners." Hours seemed to pass in minutes for Ethan. His mind was fully focused. He ignored the sweat on his brow, the fatigue in his arms, and the heat radiating from the core. He calculated, adjusted, tested, and repeated. The core pulsed wildly at first but gradually settled into a steady glow. The platform stopped shaking. The dangerous sparks and waves diminished. Ethan had stabilized the system. A silence filled the room. The aliens stared, unable to hide their astonishment. The one who had given him the test spoke slowly, almost reluctantly. "Humans, you manipulate forces without equal. Your mind is extraordinary. We underestimated you." Ethan nodded. He did not smile or boast. He had done what humans always did, faced a challenge, adapted, and solved the problem. He looked at the core, still glowing steadily. He could feel the energy, but it no longer threatened him. He had turned danger into control. Laura stepped forward, her eyes wide with awe. "You did it, Ethan. You actually did it," she whispered. Ethan allowed a small nod but remained focused. He knew this was only part of the council's test. More challenges would come, each designed to push him further. Humans had always risen to challenges, and he would continue to do so. One of the alien leaders made a low, vibrating sound. "This is not just skill. This is adaptation under extreme conditions. Humans, you do not break, you improve. Ethan had seen this on Earth many times. Humans thrived under pressure. Floods, storms, wars, and disasters had taught them to act calmly when others panicked. They could survive when it seemed impossible. Now, in front of the council, Ethan was showing the same principle on a galactic scale. A new voice called from the upper platform. It was sharper, almost anxious. If humans can stabilize this, what else can they do? What else have they learned from survival? Ethan considered the question quietly. He did not answer immediately. Humans had knowledge, endurance, and intelligence, but he knew the council would want proof. He needed to show them something undeniable. He glanced around the room, noticing the panels and devices. Everything here was advanced, yet basic principles applied. Observation, logic, and careful testing could solve problems that technology alone could not. He took a deep breath and began to adjust the system further. This time, he did not just stabilize it, he optimized it. The core's energy output became smoother, more efficient. Sensors on the platforms registered improvements beyond the original design. The aliens watching gasped. The human had not only survived the test, he had improved the system itself. A low murmur spread across the council. Some aliens whispered to each other, clearly impressed. Others leaned back, uneasy. A few made sounds that suggested fear. Humans were supposed to be weak, adaptable maybe, but not capable of improving alien technology with nothing but observation and logic. Ethan's calm mind had turned fear into a demonstration of power they could not anticipate. Laura's hand touched his arm lightly. "You're showing them what humans can really do." Ethan nodded slightly. He did not need to explain. His actions were proof enough. Humans did not need weapons to show strength. They used intelligence, patience, and creativity. After the optimization, the council called a halt. The room's atmosphere was tense. The aliens looked at each other, some still in disbelief. One of the taller leaders spoke, its voice measured. "Humans, you adapt faster than expected. Your skill with this technology is unprecedented. Perhaps your species is more dangerous than we realized." Ethan remained calm, letting the weight of his achievement settle in. He had not sought praise, but recognition came anyway. The council had underestimated him, as they had underestimated all humans. He had shown that humans were not weak or simple. They were capable of thinking, adapting, and solving problems under extreme pressure. He stepped down from the platform slowly, breathing evenly. The other humans watching from Earth felt relief and pride. Lucas Grant muttered into his communicator, "He's beyond expectations. The council will have to reconsider humanity now." Ethan's thoughts turned to the future. The council would push further, test other limits, and perhaps even challenge human endurance directly. He was ready. Humans had survived far worse than alien trials. They had faced impossible odds, natural disasters, and enemies stronger than themselves. Their strength came from adaptability, intelligence, and cooperation. Now, in front of the council, he was proving that principle on a galactic scale. The aliens did not speak for several minutes. The silence was heavy, filled with unspoken recognition. They had underestimated one human, and that human had shown strength they could not ignore. Some of them looked fearful, realizing humans might be more dangerous than they had believed. Others nodded quietly, respect forming in their expressions. Ethan walked toward a quiet corner of the chamber, observing without speaking. He felt no pride, only focus. There would be more tests, more trials, and he would face them as humans always did, with calm, patience, and intelligence. The council would learn that underestimating one human could be a grave mistake. He glanced at Laura, who nodded encouragingly. "They are beginning to see," she said softly. Ethan gave a small smile. Yes, they were beginning to see. But the council had yet to witness the full extent of human strength. Patience, observation, and quiet thinking could achieve things that raw power could not. Ethan had shown them the beginning of that lesson today. As he prepared for the next stage, he realized something important. Humans did not need to be feared in a traditional sense. Their true power was in their unpredictability, their intelligence, and their endurance. The council had thought him weak. They had been wrong. Humans could face extreme pressure, think faster than most species, and solve problems that seemed impossible. And Ethan would show them, step by step, that humans were more than they appeared. The council would not forget this day. They would not underestimate humans again. The quiet strength of one human had already begun to change their perception after the core was stabilized. Ethan felt a small moment of relief, but he knew the council was not done testing him. The aliens had begun to respect him, but respect could quickly turn to challenge. They wanted to see more. More endurance, more intelligence, more proof of human strength. Ethan followed Laura down a long corridor, the walls glowing softly and humming with energy. The corridor seemed endless, but Ethan stayed calm. Humans had crossed deserts, oceans, and mountains on Earth. A long haul in an alien station was nothing by comparison. At the end of the corridor, they entered a new chamber. It was vast, almost like a small city inside the station. Machines and structures floated in the air, connected by glowing bridges and paths. Holographic displays hovered everywhere, showing alien languages, numbers, and symbols that changed constantly. Ethan's eyes scanned the room, observing every detail. He could feel the pressure of the council's gaze on him, even from the platforms above. One of the alien leaders stepped forward. Its skin shimmered like silver, and its voice was deep and vibrating. "Human, you have shown skill with our devices. But your species is known for more than logic. Let us see your endurance and decision-making under extreme stress. Failure will not be tolerated." Ethan nodded. He did not speak, but he felt ready. Humans had survived floods, storms, famines, and wars. They had faced life-or-death situations countless times and had adapted. He trusted in his training and his instincts. Laura whispered beside him, "Remember, Ethan, stay calm. Observe first, act second." Ethan nodded again. Suddenly, the room changed. Walls rose and fell, creating obstacles. Energy fields flickered on and off, creating dangerous zones. Floating platforms moved in irregular patterns. The chamber itself seemed alive, shifting and responding to Ethan's presence. The aliens had created a trial designed to confuse, exhaust, and intimidate him. Many species would panic under these conditions, but Ethan took a deep breath and began. He moved carefully across the first platform. It wobbled slightly under his weight, but he adjusted his balance. He noticed patterns in the movement, small rhythms, repetitions, and pauses. His mind worked quickly, calculating the safest path. He remembered his time on Earth, climbing mountains and crossing rivers. Humans had always learned to watch the environment carefully and act with precision. He applied the same principle here. Energy beams flashed suddenly, forcing him to duck and move sideways. His hands brushed a control panel floating beside the platform. Instinctively, he pressed a few buttons. Lights shifted and part of the path became stable. He realized that the room was designed to respond to input. It was not just about endurance. It was about intelligence, observation, and quick thinking. Humans excelled at that. Aliens watched closely. Some whispered to each other, others clicked their fingers in sharp patterns. A few seemed nervous. Ethan could feel their surprise. They expected him to panic or fail, but he was calm, precise, and adaptive. Every step he took was measured, every action deliberate. He was not moving faster than they could see. He was thinking faster, and that made all the difference. Hours passed as Ethan navigated the shifting chamber. The room tested his balance, his mind, and his patience. Energy pulses hit the platforms, forcing him to jump, duck, or reroute. Holographic walls appeared and disappeared, creating false paths. Many humans might have grown tired or frustrated, but Ethan stayed steady. He observed patterns, tried solutions, failed a few times, and corrected himself. He remained focused, letting fear or frustration pass without affecting his decisions. Laura and the human observers watched in amazement. They had feared this test would overwhelm him, but he was calm as ever. Lucas Grant, monitoring the feed from Earth, whispered into his communicator, "He's doing the impossible. No human should be able to think and act this fast under pressure." Ethan reached the center of the chamber, where a large console hovered above a glowing pit. The core of the room pulsed with energy, unstable and unpredictable. This was the ultimate test. He studied the console and the patterns of energy. He could see spikes, surges, and irregularities. Many aliens would have assumed it was beyond repair. Ethan did not. He saw patterns, rhythm, and logic hidden within chaos. He knelt and began to adjust the controls, testing small changes and observing reactions. The energy pulses shifted slightly with each action. Ethan smiled faintly. Humans had a gift: observation, adaptation, and persistence. He made careful adjustments, synchronizing with the pulses, and slowly the core began to stabilize. Sparks reduced, energy waves calmed, and the room grew steady. Aliens watching gasped. They had not expected him to control the core without instructions or tools. One of the taller leaders leaned forward, its glowing eyes narrowing. "This human, he manipulates forces beyond our understanding. His mind works faster than our most advanced systems." Ethan stood up slowly, keeping calm. He did not boast. Humans had survived disasters on Earth without claiming glory. Their strength was quiet, persistent, and powerful. The aliens now understood that humans were not weak. They adapted, improved, and endured. A sudden alert sounded from the room. A small failure occurred in a side module. Most species would panic. Ethan walked calmly to the module, examined the problem, and found a simple solution. A few button presses and the module stabilized. Aliens whispered among themselves. Humans had solved not just one challenge but multiple, all under extreme pressure. Laura stepped closer. "You've done more than any of us imagined," she said softly. Ethan nodded but remained focused. He knew the council would push further. Humans had survived wars, disasters, and impossible situations on Earth. They would survive here too. The council members murmured to each other. Some clicked their fingers, others tilted their heads, clearly impressed. A few made low sounds indicating worry. Humans were not just clever, they were capable of handling pressure, adapting quickly, and solving problems that seemed impossible. Ethan had shown them that in quiet, deliberate ways. Hours later, the chamber finally stabilized completely. Energy flowed smoothly, platforms became steady, and holographic walls stopped shifting. Ethan remained calm, breathing evenly without signs of exhaustion. The aliens studied him, some leaning forward, others standing back, unsure what to say. The human had endured, adapted, and improved the system under extreme stress. One of the older leaders spoke slowly, almost reluctantly. "Humans, you are remarkable. Your endurance, intelligence, and calm under pressure surpass what we believed possible. We underestimated you." Ethan nodded. He did not need to say more. His actions had spoken. Humans were not weak. They were unpredictable, adaptive, and capable of rising above challenges that other species could not handle. Laura placed a hand on his shoulder. "They are starting to understand," she whispered. Ethan gave a small smile. Yes, they were beginning to see, but the council had yet to witness the full power of human endurance and intelligence. Patience, observation, and quiet thinking could achieve things that raw strength could not. Ethan walked to a quiet corner of the chamber, observing without speaking. The aliens continued to discuss in low tones. Some admitted quietly that humans might be stronger than they had imagined. Others looked uneasy, realizing they had misjudged a species they thought simple. Ethan had shown them a new kind of power: calm intelligence under pressure, adaptability, and persistence. Outside the chamber, Lucas Grant typed a report to Earth Command. Human envoy continues to exceed expectations. Council observers shocked. Recommend continued monitoring and further engagement. Humanity's capabilities under stress are extraordinary. Ethan reflected quietly. The Council would continue testing, pushing humans further. He knew that. But humans had survived far worse. Natural disasters, wars, and situations that seemed impossible. Their strength came from intelligence, endurance, and the ability to adapt quickly. He had shown that today, and the Council could not ignore it. The aliens had underestimated one human, and that human had quietly demonstrated power they could not yet measure. They had begun to see the truth. Humans were not simple or weak. Humans could endure, adapt, and improve under extreme conditions, often surprising even the most advanced species. Ethan felt calm satisfaction. He had not sought glory or recognition, but he had shown what humans could do. The Council would remember this day. Underestimating one human had backfired, and when they finally understood the full measure of humanity, they would never underestimate a human again. Ethan entered the final chamber, the largest room in the Council station. The walls were lined with glowing panels and floating devices that hummed with energy. Alien leaders filled the platforms above, their eyes fixed on him. Silence hung in the air, thick and heavy. This was the last test, or perhaps the final observation. Ethan did not speak. He only studied the room, its energy flows, and the patterns of the devices around him. Laura stood beside him, whispering softly, "This is it, Ethan. Everything you've done leads here. Stay calm." Ethan nodded. Humans had faced worse on Earth. Famine, storms, floods, fires, and wars had all tested them. He had survived challenges that could have ended weaker species, and he would survive this one too. Suddenly, the room shifted. Panels moved, energy beams activated, and the floor beneath him vibrated. Holographic symbols appeared in the air, constantly changing. The aliens had created a challenge that combined all previous tests: endurance, intelligence, adaptability, and decision-making under extreme pressure. Many species would have faltered. Ethan felt the familiar rush of focus, his mind clearing and sharpening. He observed patterns, calculated risks, and prepared to act. He moved first to a console hovering over a pool of glowing energy. The symbols changed as he approached, reacting to his presence. He studied them carefully. They were complex, but he could recognize the patterns. Humans were quick learners. Observation, trial and error, and adaptation had always been their strength. Slowly, he began adjusting the controls, testing responses, and predicting outcomes. Energy pulses shot through the room, hitting the floor and walls. The vibrations made it difficult to balance, but Ethan adjusted quickly. He moved like water, steady, fluid, and precise. Each step, each adjustment brought the room closer to stability. The aliens above clicked their fingers and made low sounds of surprise. They had not expected a human to handle the challenge with such calm and control. Hours passed as Ethan navigated the room. He solved puzzles, stabilized devices, and prevented energy surges from escalating. His mind worked faster than any machine in the chamber. Slowly, the room grew steady. The energy flows became smoother, the floating platform stopped moving erratically, and the symbols stabilized into patterns that could be read and understood. One of the alien leaders spoke, its voice trembling slightly. "Human, your mind, faster than we imagined, your species, stronger than we believed." Ethan did not answer. He did not need to. His actions had spoken. Humans were not weak. They adapted, learned, and endured under pressure. Suddenly, an alarm blared. A side module began to overload, threatening to destabilize the entire chamber. Most species would have panicked. Ethan moved quickly, analyzing the problem. He noticed a sequence in the overload patterns and carefully adjusted the module. Sparks flew and energy crackled, but he remained calm. Step by step, he corrected the failure. The room stabilized completely. Laura's hand rested lightly on his shoulder. "You've done it, Ethan. The Council will never doubt humans again." Ethan nodded slightly. Humans had survived impossible odds on Earth. They had endured disasters and wars, and now, on a galactic scale, he had shown the same strength. Observation, intelligence, and persistence had proven more powerful than raw force. The alien leaders leaned forward, whispering among themselves. Some looked fearful, others respected him silently. They realized that humans were not simple. Humans could endure, think, adapt, and overcome challenges that seemed impossible. The Council had underestimated one human, and that human had proven their mistake. Ethan turned to face the Council. His voice was calm and steady. "Humans do not have the strongest weapons or the fastest ships. Our power lies in our minds, our endurance, and our ability to adapt. Underestimate us, and you will find we are not what we seem." The Council was silent. They could not deny what they had witnessed. Humans had survived tests designed to break them, stabilize alien systems, and solve problems that no other species could. Respect, fear, and astonishment filled their thoughts. One leader spoke slowly, reluctantly. "Human, your species, we misjudged. Your adaptability, endurance, and intelligence, these are remarkable. You are worthy of recognition." Ethan nodded quietly. Humans did not need titles or praise to prove their worth. They had survived, endured, and adapted. Their strength was quiet but undeniable. The Council had seen it all, and they would never forget it. Outside the chamber, humans watching from Earth cheered quietly. Lucas Grant typed a message to command. "Human envoy has completed all tests. Council astonished and respectful." Humanity's capabilities confirmed under extreme pressure. Recommend recognition and engagement. Ethan left the chamber slowly, his steps calm and deliberate. Laura followed, smiling. "You've changed everything," she said softly. Ethan nodded. Humans had always been underestimated, but now the galaxy knew the truth. As he walked through the corridors of the Council station, aliens watched him closely. Some made low sounds of respect, others whispered warnings to each other. Humans had survived the impossible. They had shown endurance, intelligence, and adaptability that no species had expected. One human had shocked the galaxy, proving that humanity was not weak. Laura stopped him near the observation deck. "The Council is already planning to give Earth a place among the member species," she said. Ethan smiled faintly. He had not sought power or recognition. He had only shown what humans could do when tested. But now humans would have a voice in the galaxy, respected and feared in a quiet, intelligent way. He looked out at the stars, glowing brightly through the observation deck. Humans had survived on Earth for millennia, enduring every challenge. Now they would face the galaxy with the same persistence, adaptability, and intelligence. Ethan felt a quiet pride not for himself, but for all humans. They had been underestimated, but they had proven their strength. The Council's decisions came soon after. Earth was granted recognition and equality among galactic species. Requests for human advisors, engineers, and negotiators poured in. Humans had no weapons stronger than other species, but their minds, endurance, and adaptability were more powerful than anyone had anticipated. Ethan returned to Earth quietly without titles or honors. He knew humans did not need them. Their strength was inherent, quiet, and powerful. Laura met him at the shuttle. "You've done more than anyone could imagine," she said. Ethan smiled lightly. Humans had shown their true power, not through war or conquest, but through intelligence, endurance, and courage. The Council would never underestimate a human again. One quiet human had shocked an entire galaxy, proving that the underestimated could rise to greatness. The galaxy had learned a lesson they would never forget. Humans were stronger than appearances suggested, cleverer than anyone predicted, and capable of facing challenges no other species could endure. Ethan walked away, leaving the council station behind. He looked at the stars, thinking of all the humans who had survived and adapted on Earth. He knew the galaxy would now watch humanity closely. Some would fear them, some would respect them, and some might even try to challenge them. But humans had endured for thousands of years. They would face whatever came next with intelligence, endurance, and quiet strength. And so, one human had shown the galaxy the true power of humanity. Underestimated once, humanity would never be underestimated again.